Alan who is up.
Yes, hello everybody, Alan Dowsall here. Welcome to today's session on how savvy MSPs are building successful cloud businesses around the Microsoft 365 engine. And I'm delighted to tell you all this morning, we've got Duncan McDonald here, who's the product development director at RapidScale. And Duncan is one of the most savvy Microsoft partner people that I know. And it's an absolute delight to have him on the call today to talk to us a little bit about what RapidScale have been doing around their MSP efforts. My name is Alan Dowsall. I am a business consultant, do a lot of work for Microsoft. I'm working directly with Microsoft partners, helping partners all over the world build out their successful cloud businesses. So without further ado, I've got a lot of background noise coming through. It'd be nice if we could all be on mute. Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, whoever did that. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the framework for the series of webinars that SkyKick have been running. We've already done one around accelerating time to market. Today's call is really all around IP and how we can differentiate our partner offerings through the development of intellectual property, which drives value for us and our business obviously out to our customers. And I'll come back to some of the other webinars that are coming up over the next couple of weeks. But today's session is really focused on IP and driving value. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to cover 4 areas. We're going to talk about why IP continues to be important, and my point of view is it's going to become even more important as part of managed service offerings moving forwards, and how that really is going to have an impact upon our overall CSP strategy. We're going to get Duncan to talk about his experiences at RapidScale and really kind of jump into what they've been doing, because there's some really good examples of what they've been doing there. And then at the end, we're going to have a little kind of Q&A session between the two of us to talk about really what we're both seeing over the horizon. So that's kind of like the agenda for the next 20 minutes or so. I'm going to kick off with about 8 minutes of slides. I want to talk about, one, what's the opportunity around IP as I see it, being out there working with a lot of Microsoft partners just like yourselves and with Microsoft themselves. I'm going to talk about something that I refer to as the new platform for IP on Office 365. And then my strategy around execution is what I refer to as my ready, set, go strategy. And I'm going to jump into talking a little bit about what I mean about that. Let's get into the opportunity space. And I'm going to focus my 8 minutes around SMB, because I think there's a massive, massive opportunity for partners in the SMB space, especially because the penetration of Office 365 in SMB is somewhere around about the 10% mark, according to the latest stats that are coming out of Microsoft. So we have a massive opportunity, 78 million SMBs worldwide, 1.8 billion employees that we can go out and drive value into. And there's about an $80 billion office opportunity, but those aren't really the most important trends. For me, the 2 most important trends are work related in the SMB space. The first one is that according to the latest data from companies like Forrester, 72% of employees in these organizations are going to be working remotely, 72%. And 80% of the work that they're going to be doing is around collaborating with both their fellow employees and collaborating just like we're doing today on this webinar with their partners, with their suppliers, with their customers. So collaboration and teamwork is really the next big workload that we're starting to see that's really becoming the Trojan horse for driving Office 365 penetration out there into the SMB space. And then if we put this a little bit in the context of managed services, if we look at the services trends, what we can see here is that managed services is now becoming the predominant portion of our services, of our overall services revenue. You can see managed services here the last 3 years has gone from 22% to 28% of overall services revenues for MSP partners. Support is going down, project services going down, managed services going up. And why is that? Well, a lot of that managed services growth is coming out of Office, or is as a result of the Office platform really starting to drive its way into SMBs. In actual fact, Forrester put it in these terms recently in their latest total economic impact survey, where they said that the Office opportunity for partners in SMB was around $17 per user per month. So that really puts it into some specific financial terms for us all. The size of the opportunity in SMB is driven by Office is $17 per user per month. But the statistic that really caught my attention there in the Forrester latest total economic impact survey was that 50% of that $17 per user per month partner opportunity based off of Office is going to come from collaboration. It's going to come from Teams. Teams is the next big workload, and it's going to drive a big opportunity for Microsoft partners, and especially the ability to build out your own intellectual property on top of Teams. And let's just quickly take a look at what that basically means. Already today, in Microsoft Teams, there are some 200 applications that sit in the App Store. And many of those applications that are already in the App Store are applications that all partners can be leveraging and building into their managed service offerings for their customers, or partners can be building their own applications, taking advantage of some of the very rich features that are available in Teams now. You know, things like bots, things like accessing Microsoft Graph so that you can create some really cool kind of workloads and integration with line of business applications from inside of Teams, and other types of capabilities like connectors, and obviously the App Store itself, because if everybody is collaborating and everybody's on Teams out there, those 1.8 billion employees, the App Store is going to be right there on their homepage, So if we've got our apps in the App Store, then we're going to be in a really, really good position. And I think it's going to be some of these really simple scenarios that are going to really kind of drive value for customers from Microsoft Teams. And there's a couple of really interesting examples that I've got here. So for example, you know, I wake up in the morning, I go into Teams, and there's a bot there that says, how can I help? And I say to the bot, look, I need to take sick leave. I'm not feeling too good. I need to take a sick leave day today. And the bot says, how many hours you need? I say 8 hours. And the bot goes ahead, it finds the day, it blocks the day out in my calendar, it sets up my out of office message, and it also goes ahead and lets my manager know that I'm taking a sick day. And not only that, it gives my manager the option to go find someone else within my organization who can pick up the work. Very simple application, sick leave application that could be built in very easily Microsoft Teams, using things like bots, using things like the Microsoft Graph, and using things like connectors in Teams. Or maybe it's about shift change. You know, I want to change my shift. You know, the bot calls the LOB app, it finds out who's available, it sends a notification to other team members on the team. They accept or reject that notification, and the bot goes ahead and updates the shift LOB. These are very simple examples, scenarios of applications that can very easily, very rapidly be built out in Microsoft Teams using Power Apps. My particular favorite at the moment is the Who productivity app that's available for all partners to be building out little applications on top of, because every company out there needs a who, if you think about it. You know, who to fill in, you know, going back to the last example that we had, who to fill my shift, you know, who to hire, who to help me coach my team, help them coach and mentor them, some of the new skills and knowledge that they need to have to be successful in the cloud world. So these are really interesting applications that all partners could be getting up to speed with, and they're applications that can be accelerating the development of your IP on top of Teams. So what I say to partners is, look, if you want to really maximize the opportunity around Office and Office 365 and the new Office IP platform, adopt a ready, set, go approach. And what I mean by that is, ready is basically about winning the foundation. Sell Office 365 Essentials, deploy Office, focus on migration, get security going, get your backup workloads going, get your 24/7 support going as part of your managed service offering. Take advantage of the SkyKick migration suites. That's your ready. And then you can quickly move on to set and start attaching more high value add services. Maybe here you could start to focus on, adding in Teams, helping customers to set up Teams, set up channels in Teams, and make sure their documents are available in those Teams. And then really you start to get into the go part of your strategy, whereby you can really start to get into building deep relationships with your customers here. Obviously, you're making sure that Cloud Manager is getting in there, the customer's taking advantage of Cloud Manager from SkyKick, whereby they know what usage and adoption is like. They're on top of their kind of licensing around Office. But really here, what they're doing is you're starting to build out your Power App to support some of these simple workloads that I've given examples for. And then going beyond that and starting to use apps in Teams like Flow to support customers' workflows and integrate some of their team processes with their line of business applications, and also making sure they're kind of modernizing some of those devices in their boardrooms and conference rooms to maximize the opportunity that Microsoft Teams presents. And all of this can be bundled into your managed service offering. So look, that's my 2 cents on kind of where we are, what's the opportunity, and where we're going with new workloads that are built on top of Microsoft Teams. But let's find out more about what Duncan has been doing at rapid scale, because they've been massively successful in building out their managed services business in the cloud. So let's hand over to Duncan, and I'll ask Duncan to come up and talk a little bit more about what they've been doing there. Duncan.
Great, thank you, Alan. So I think everybody can agree that, Alan obviously is a veteran expert, and IP obviously has an important place in the building of solutions. So the first thing I'm going to point out about Rapid Scale is Rapid Scale, obviously a managed service provider founded just over 10 years ago. We play in every conceivable space, as many managed service providers do. We play from the SMB space all the way up to the enterprise space. But it's important to put this in the context of IP. Intellectual property is something that you can build or buy. We can't do this all on our own. So you'll see, as I illustrate in this slide, that best-in-class partnerships are a vital part of this. And I'll illustrate this as we go through sort of my story in this slide, or in this presentation rather. So next slide, please, Alan. So as we build out IP, as we look at building IP, it's important to look at the tenets we want to achieve with that IP. Why do we need IP? What's the purpose for driving IP? So there are some end goals we want to attain. We obviously want that IP to be easy to develop and maintain. So for me personally, when I look at partnerships, I'm looking for partners that have great technologies, but technologies that are scalable, agile, with simple distribution models and drive scalability. I want to sell a lot of units, not in hundreds, but in the thousands and tens of thousands. So these are tenets that I look for, whether I'm looking to build IP or whether I'm looking to partner with partners that are centers of excellence that I want to embed into my own solutions. The net of this, obviously, is yes, I want to sell a lot, but I want that to be profitable, and I want that to be profitable by a factor of X factor. The stats here show that if you choose your IP successfully, you're going to get those returns, and you're going to get those returns X-fold. So next slide. So the next thing it's important for us to look at is what's the core driver of all of this? Well, as a product guy and being in product for sort of 10 plus years now, everything I do is through a client lens. I build solutions, and yes, they're built with embodied intellectual property in them. Sometimes I build a business case to say to my management, I want to develop that IP in-house, but sometimes I want to partner with solution technology stacks that have that IP, because there are, quite frankly, partners that do things better than what we do. Good examples of that are migration. RapidScale would never be good at performing migrations in email or file management. It's much better to leave those to customized experts who, quite frankly, it's their niche, right? They have made it their stock and trade, and so it's better for them to focus on that and us to attach to that, but then also for us to provide our input where we want them to strengthen their solution, make it better for us and many other ISPs as well. We want a strong API in that solution stack. We want that solution stack to have core features that are for the good of our customer and for the good of us. Things like billing integration, things like features that ensure that there's automation and tie-ins to particular features that the customer may benefit from. But let's have a look at the customer challenges that ultimately drive the IP that we end up putting into our solutions. So the first thing to point out is that today, the pace of evolution is changing so rapidly that our customers are having a challenge keeping up with it. And 365 is probably at the forefront of this. If you look at the roadmap of Office 365 today, there's upwards of 200 features in that roadmap at any point in time. A single customer has a challenge keeping up with those features in that roadmap. And in fact, Teams is at the forefront of that. There's about a third of that roadmap is Teams. And as Alan pointed out, Teams is the glue that is actually driving a lot of those changes in Office 365. It is actually bringing together the collaboration of what used to be a discombobulated solution stack. You used to have Outlook, you used to have, or Exchange Online, you used to have OneDrive, you used to have SharePoint. Today, it's all been brought together with Teams. So on top of that fast-paced evolution, you've got a number of other core challenges that customers are experiencing, things like migration, things like customers not understanding how to keep up with the adoption of their platform, not understanding how to use OneDrive, how to use SharePoint, how to use document management strategy. Then you've got security and BCDR, or business continuity disaster recovery. And then how do I support my platform? Do I support it in-house, or do I go with a third party? All of these are challenges that from a product perspective drive me to either building or buying intellectual property. So if we move on. So two things here. 365 at its core provides a lot of intellectual property in the solution. If you were to build the same solution as Office 365, you would end up with multiple vendors. But what Office 365 has done is it has afforded you the equivalent of multiple solution stacks, high definition conferencing, enterprise collaboration, email, and file sharing, all built into one solution. And because it's this way, you get it at a lower price. Office 365 in the cloud has driven down the cost of the cloud to the SMB for what used to be more expensive in the SMB, now is the same price for solutions that traditionally were offered to the enterprise. Now, if we click on one more now we add IP into that, and managed service providers are adding additional IP into the mix now. We're adding things like data migration, data backup, security, adoption and training. And this is just for a few dollars more. It's not doubling or quadrupling the price. This is just for a couple of dollars more. We're able to add valuable intellectual property to the solution. And the benefits are incredible to the end user because we can add it for a couple of dollars more, a ton of more increased functionality. The support experience is fluid for the end user. But
Did we lose Duncan? I think we might have
Duncan,
done.
we can't hear you on the... Yeah, go ahead.
oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Determining the right partner and making the decision whether you're going to build or buy that intellectual property. So next slide. So let's talk about the end result, how RapidScale achieved this. So this is actually a very pragmatic approach. So at the top, you'll see the core solution here. You'll see one half of our solution. This is the business stack here. This is the business plans. I think everybody's familiar with these. Email Plan 1, Business Essentials, Business Premium, and M365 Business. This is the Office 365 core stack. Anybody can go buy this. You can go buy this from Microsoft. You can go buy this from a reseller. Anybody from CDW to Insight to Software One, from any of 500 different places. That's not the magic. The magic is below the line here. It's the value add. It's the intellectual property that you add as a service provider to differentiate yourself. What makes you different from everybody else out there? So in RapidScale's instance, what we have done is, if we went back 2 slides, and we're not going to go back 2 slides, we looked at the customer pain points. The customer pain points were, I've got a problem with migration. That's a pain point. I have a problem with adoption. That's another pain point. I have a problem with security. That's a pain point. I have a problem with BCDR. That's a pain point. So if you look at the stack here, that's addressing a number of these pain points. So we're addressing those pain points with a complementary migration. Now, that's not our only migration. We provide choices. I'm not going to go into all of those. People can go to our website and look at those. We also have monitoring built in. We have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 escalation up to Microsoft. We have a financially backed SLA, which is just a pass through. We then have complementary backup. And then we have adoption and change management, which is a partnership also. So when I look at this IP, all of this is tied together with a portal that we've developed, which is our own intellectual property. And then 2 of these are IP that we draw in through best in breed partnerships. The first is a partnership with a company called Nulia. They're an adoption and change partner. And then 2 of these are SkyKick. The first one is the cutover migration, or in fact, our whole migration strategy is through SkyKick. And the second one is the complementary email backup is IP through SkyKick. And indeed, the upsell strategy is also through SkyKick as well. So as you can see, having that partnership with a best-in-breed partner is vital. And I know I've run over, but it's very, very important to differentiate that IP is not something you necessarily build on your own. It's something you do with partners who can do those things better than you can. One last point here. The experience you present to your customer is your experience. So as far as the customer's concerned, when we're selling this is a rapid scale service and we're the ones delivering it. Now, Nulia and SkyKick are our partners. They're walking hand in hand and they provide us a full support experience, but we're the ones providing this. And I think that's the full point here. So when you build IP, choose your partners well, determine whether you're going to build IP or whether you're going to partner for your IP, and also understand the purpose for building your IP. Those are the points, I think. So the last point here is rapid scale's promise. We build IP across the full customer stack. So we're flexible enough, as I pointed out at the beginning. We build solutions from the SMB all the way up to the enterprise stack. And then the last point I made, and I've made it time and time again, is we're as good as we are because of the partnerships we have. We recognize that we can't do everything on our own. Our excellence is delivered through solid partnerships, with best-in-class partners like SkyKick, like Nulia, and our delivery is through a client-centric approach.
All right, Duncan, thank you so much. It's great to kind of listen to you, talk about what you've been doing over the last 1 or 2 years and building out your service offerings at rapid scale. And I'm sure we could go on and probably talk for another half an hour about all that. But look, just looking forwards, and if we try and bring our two presentations together, the future's presentation and thinking about what's next, and you kind of thinking about where you've come from and what you're looking at, what would you say your priorities moving forward? What are your priorities now for what you positioned as your core layer in your previous slide? And also, what are those kind of scenarios that you're now looking forward to around your value layer? How do you think about those two things moving forwards?
So like with any company, you have to determine, the first thing, you have to determine your market, and then you have to determine the Microsoft solution that you're going to address or sell into that market. The one thing I would advise is don't go broad. Sell, if you're going to sell into SMB, go with go with a t-shirt sizing, good, better, best, gold, silver, bronze, whatever you want to call it. But I would basically, the core layer of Microsoft is at such a maturity level now that you can, simpler is better from the core layer perspective. You don't need to, it's more the focus on how you're going to differentiate your value layer. And I think that's the second question really that we're moving towards. So simpler on the core layer, definitely.
All right. Well, I think we've run out of time. We're at 30 minutes already. I would just kind of summarize our discussion this morning by saying I think there's 3 things to take away. The first thing is that managed service providers that are investing in building out their managed services offerings are really starting to kind of accelerate their business in the cloud. And I think that's made up of those 2 pieces that Duncan was talking about, your core layer, really making sure that you get your core layer right. And then obviously your valued services that you add on top of those things. And I would then point out a final thing, which is moving forward, the next, I think, big workload to really take very seriously, really get focused around is teams and collaboration. Especially, I think it's going to drive a lot of what we're seeing in the SMB space. And Microsoft Teams, I think, is really well placed. And it's really well placed for you as partners because it's presenting you with amazing opportunities to really go and look at the possibilities of the store, possibilities of what you can do with Power Apps, not just in terms of some of those simple scenarios that I was referring to, but also in terms of some of the more complex scenarios around linking up with business processes and line of business applications. In actual fact, I think the possibilities moving forward for partners are going to be endless. So thanks very much to everybody for joining us this morning. Two things just to finish off on. One is where to go start. I recommend the cloud success assessment that SkyKick have got up on their website. Go to cloudsuccess.skykick.com. This is an amazing assessment that they've pulled together for partners like you so that you can kind of assess where you are with this journey that we've been talking about. Where are we with your business strategy, sales, operations, marketing? Where are you today? And they make, as a consequence of your assessment outcomes, some great recommendations for kind of where to think about going next. So that's one thing I would recommend everybody go do. And then what's coming up next in episode 3 is a big focus on two things. One is how do you actually go about acquiring customers in the cloud space? And once you've acquired those customers, how do you then think about kind of retaining those customers at scale? So that's the emphasis for the next webinar, episode 3, acquire and retain customers at scale. So all that's left for me to say is, Duncan, thank you very much for your participation on the call today. Great to hear what's going on at rapid scale. And also thanks to everybody on the call, those partners that have jumped on the call and joined us for episode 2, differentiate on IP and value. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan and Duncan. Great presentation. I would leave maybe 1 minute to see if there is any question. I haven't seen in the chat box, none so far, but if anyone would like to take himself off mute. And I believe there are no questions. Thank you so much for the presentation, guys. It was awesome.
Thank you.
I will. We will post this this recording on Microsoft Partner Community. So thank you all for joining, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you.